Grace Harper had always been careful. She planned everything in her life down to the smallest detail. But tonight, as she stood in the kitchen of her old townhouse in Portland, Oregon, she felt a strange flutter of recklessness, the kind that comes once in a lifetime. The rain tapped softly against the windows, the air smelled faintly of wet asphalt and warm bread, and everything seemed calm, too calm for what she was about to do. Her nephew, Ethan, lounged at the dinner table, scrolling on his phone, half listening to the gentle hum of conversation. He was 19, tall for his age, with a serious face that could look like a scowl even when he was smiling. Grace had always adored him, but tonight, she wondered how he would react to her decision. "So," Ethan said casually, not looking up from his phone, "have you thought about selling the house?" The words hit her like a sudden chill. She'd been expecting them eventually, of course. Everyone had asked her over the past few months. Friends, neighbors, even distant relatives calling from other states. But hearing it now, in the quiet of her kitchen, felt different. Grace set down the pitcher of iced tea she had just filled. Her hands were steady, though her heart thumped harder than she wanted. "I have," she said softly. Ethan finally glanced up, curiosity flickering across his face. "And?" "I'm not selling," she replied, her voice calm but firm. He blinked, unsure if he'd heard correctly. "Oh. Okay, good?" Grace smiled faintly, but there was a hint of something more in her eyes. Something Ethan didn't understand yet. "Actually," she said, letting a pause stretch long enough to make him uneasy. "I'm giving it away." He froze mid-bite, fork hovering over his plate. "You're, what?" Grace nodded. "I'm giving the house to you, Ethan." His fork clattered onto the plate. "To me?" "Yes," she said simply. "You're serious?" He stood abruptly, eyes wide. "Aunt Grace, that's crazy. This place is worth a fortune." "I know," Grace replied. Her voice was gentle but unwavering. "I've thought about it for a long time." Ethan paced a little, running his hand through his hair. "But, why? Why would you just give it to me?" Grace looked at him, seeing the mixture of shock and worry in his eyes. "Because I'm leaving," she said. Ethan froze. "Leaving where?" Grace took a deep breath, steadying herself. "I've applied for a residency program in Seattle. It's for grief counseling." He blinked, trying to process what she just said. "You haven't gone back to school in 20 years. You haven't dated in." "I know," she interrupted, softly but firmly. "I know all of that. I also know that this is the right step for me. For my life. For my future." Ethan shook his head slowly. This came out of nowhere." "No," Grace said, meeting his gaze. "It didn't. I just didn't tell anyone. Not until I was sure." He swallowed, his hands tightening around the edge of the table. "And, the house? I want you to have it," she said. "It's yours. Take care of it. Make it yours in a way I can't anymore." Ethan exhaled slowly, still in shock. You really mean that?" "I do," she said. "This house has been my home for 20 years. It's where I learned to live again after Michael." She stopped for a moment, glancing at the framed photo on the shelf of her and her late husband on a sunny hiking trail. "After everything. And now, it can be yours." His eyes softened a little, but confusion lingered. "And Seattle?" he asked again. "Why Seattle? Why now?" Grace set down her mug, leaning against the counter. "I've been offered a chance to help people who are going through what I went through. To guide them when they feel lost. I can't ignore it. It's not just a job. It's purpose." Ethan's gaze shifted between her face and the photo. You're really doing this? Leaving everything behind?" "I'm not leaving everything," Grace said gently. "I'm carrying the important things with me. Memories, lessons, love. And now, you get the house." He ran a hand through his hair again, pacing a little. I didn't see this coming. And there's someone in Seattle, right? Grace froze, caught off guard. She hadn't planned to tell anyone yet. Her cheeks warmed slightly. Yes, she admitted. I met someone there. Ethan stopped in his tracks, eyes wide. Wait, dating? I don't know what it is yet, she said softly. We're just getting to know each other. But yes, he's a part of why I feel ready to move forward. Ethan's eyebrows lifted in surprise. You're serious? And you're sure you're not rushing? I've never been more sure, Grace said. This isn't about him alone. It's about me. About living. About moving forward instead of standing still. Ethan sank into his chair, still stunned. I can't believe you're doing this. Giving me the house, moving across the state, meeting someone new, all at once. Grace smiled, reaching across the table to squeeze his hand. I know it's a lot. And I don't expect you to fully understand. But I need to do this, Ethan. For myself. He exhaled, finally letting some of the tension go. I guess. I'll support you. But you've shocked me, Aunt Grace. Really shocked me. I know, she said quietly. And maybe that's the point. Sometimes, life shocks us because we've been holding on too long. Sometimes, it's the shock that opens the door. Ethan leaned back, shaking his head with a small, reluctant smile. You're unbelievable. And you're going to be the new owner of a very old, very stubborn house, Grace replied with a hint of humor, though her eyes glimmered with emotion. The rain tapped louder on the windows, as if echoing the heartbeat of a life about to change. Ethan didn't know it yet, but this decision, Grace's choice to give him the house, her choice to move to Seattle, her choice to follow her heart, would change everything. Not just for her. For him. For the life they both thought they knew. And somewhere, deep down, Grace felt a thrill she hadn't felt in years. A thrill that whispered, this is just the beginning. Grace couldn't sleep that night. Not a single minute. Her mind kept spinning with everything she had said to Ethan. Giving him the house, leaving Portland, moving to Seattle, it felt like standing on the edge of a cliff and looking down at a world she'd never seen. The rain outside whispered against the windows, soft and steady, almost like it knew she was restless. She lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the last time she had felt this alive. It had been years ago, maybe decades. After Michael died, the world had shrunk to a tiny, gray box where nothing felt safe, and nothing promised joy. Seattle had started as an accident. A small trip, a short conference she didn't really want to attend. She told herself it was for work, for professional growth, for keeping busy. But the moment she arrived, she felt something unexpected, a spark of life she hadn't noticed in years. It happened on the train platform. She had been late for her train back to the airport, dragging her suitcase across the wet tiles, annoyed at herself for letting the rain slow her down. Her hair clung damply to her face, her coat felt stiff and cold, and all she wanted was to disappear into the train and go home. Looks like we're both stuck. Grace turned to see a man standing a few feet away. Tall, with kind eyes that didn't just look at her, they seemed to see her. His hair was slightly messy, but in a way that suggested he didn't care. He held 2 steaming cups of coffee. Thought you might want one. It's going to be a while. Something in the gentleness of his tone made her smile. She accepted the cup, warmth seeping into her hands. Thank you, she said. I guess. I'm not very lucky with trains. He laughed softly, a rich, calm sound. Neither am I. I missed mine last week, too. His name was Daniel Brooks. They talked about everything that could be safely shared between strangers, books, movies, the weather, the city lights reflecting on the wet streets. And then they talked about the quiet that follows loss, the moments where you feel invisible to the world. Grace didn't realize it at the time, but Daniel listened in a way that felt like attention itself was rare. Not the distracted attention you get from most people, but the kind that rests, that lingers, that cares. By the time the train arrived, they had shared stories about family, fears, and little everyday regrets. Daniel walked with her to the train car, and before she could protest, they exchanged numbers. "If the universe decides to strand us again, maybe we'll end up at the same platform," he said. She had laughed, but deep down, she wanted to see him again. And she did. 3 months later, they were talking almost every night. Long phone calls that ran until midnight, video chats where Daniel showed her the Seattle skyline from his apartment balcony, little messages that made her heart lift at unexpected moments. She wasn't in love, she didn't even know if that was possible so soon, but she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. She didn't tell anyone about him. Not her friends, not her sister, not Ethan. She wasn't sure what it meant yet. She didn't want anyone to ruin the fragile feeling of possibility. Until now. The next morning, Ethan found her in the kitchen, pouring coffee and staring out the window at the gray drizzle. "So, you're really serious about Seattle?" he asked, voice cautious, curious. "Yes," Grace said, setting the mug down, letting the steam rise between them like a shield. "And the house?" he asked, not unkindly, but with the weight of worry in his voice. "I'm giving it to you," she replied. Ethan's brow furrowed. "I get it, but, moving to Seattle? That's a big leap, Aunt Grace. You've never done something like this before." "I'm ready," she said simply. "And, is there someone?" Grace's hands froze on the mug. Ethan's eyes widened, his tone sharper now, though not judgmental. "You didn't tell me there was someone." She smiled faintly, feeling her heart speed up. "Yes. I met someone in Seattle." Ethan sat back, mouth slightly open. "Dating someone you've known for, what? A few months?" "I don't know what it is yet," she said honestly. "We're just getting to know each other. But yes, he's part of the reason I feel ready to take this step." He ran a hand through his hair. "You're moving cities for a guy?" Grace shook her head. "Not just for him. For me. For the chance to live fully again." Ethan studied her. "You haven't dated in years. And now suddenly, Seattle, a new program, a man. Are you sure you're not rushing?" "I've never felt more sure of anything," Grace said, her voice steady. "I'm ready to face life instead of hiding from it. Daniel, he makes the thought of the future feel less scary, but the move isn't about him. It's about me taking control again." Ethan's expression softened. I can't believe it. Giving me the house, leaving Portland, it's a lot. You're shocking me, Aunt Grace. Really shocking me." Grace reached over and touched his arm gently. "Sometimes life shocks you because it's time to wake up. I'm not running away. I'm moving forward." He exhaled slowly, letting out the tension in his shoulders. "I guess I'll support you. But I was not expecting this." "You don't have to fully understand," she said. "Just trust me that it's right for me." Ethan shook his head, a small smile breaking through his disbelief. "Unbelievable. That's what you are." Grace laughed softly. "And you're going to take care of a very stubborn house." The rain outside seemed to echo the rhythm of her heartbeat, steady, soft, and full of quiet anticipation. Grace knew the decision she had made tonight would change everything. Not just for her, but for Ethan too. And deep down, she felt a thrill she hadn't felt in years, the thrill of stepping into a life she could shape herself, the thrill of hope, and the thrill of something, or someone, waiting for her in Seattle. She had no idea what awaited her there, but for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel afraid. She felt ready. Because life, she realized, wasn't about staying safe forever. Sometimes, it was about risking everything to find what made your heart alive again. And somewhere far away, a man she barely knew yet felt inexplicably connected to was already thinking of her. Grace smiled, picking up her phone. A text from Daniel popped up. "Daniel, thinking about you. When are you coming back to Seattle?" She stared at it for a moment, heart racing. Then she typed back. Soon. Maybe sooner than you think. And just like that, the next chapter of her life had quietly begun. Grace's flight landed just as the sky was turning pink over Seattle. She gripped her suitcase handle tightly, heart pounding in a mix of excitement and nerves. She hadn't told Daniel she was coming. She wanted it to be a surprise, to see his reaction when she appeared in the city that was already beginning to feel like home, even before she moved there for good. The airport buzzed around her, people rushing, luggage rolling, announcements echoing through the terminal, but Grace hardly noticed. All she could think about was finding him, seeing his face again, and finally being in the same place. She spotted him near baggage claim before she even reached the carousel. Tall, with his coat open slightly over a casual shirt, glasses perched on the bridge of his nose. He was staring at a phone screen, seemingly unaware of the world. But the moment he looked up, their eyes met, and Grace felt that strange, electric spark, the one that reminded her why she'd left so much behind. Grace? His voice was a mix of surprise and disbelief. Hi, she said, trying to keep her voice steady, though she felt her stomach flip. He stepped toward her, but then stopped, unsure. You didn't say you were flying in. I wanted to see you, she said softly. His expression shifted, first surprise, then a small smile that made her chest tighten. I'm really glad you did. They walked out of the airport together, shoulders brushing occasionally, each touch sending tiny jolts of awareness through her. The city felt alive around them, neon lights reflecting on wet sidewalks, the faint smell of coffee and rain mixing in the air. Dinner was at a small Italian place near the waterfront. Candles flickered on the table, casting warm light across Daniel's face. They talked about small things at first, the flight, the city, the weather, but underneath, everything was different. Something unspoken hung between them, a gentle tension that neither rushed to name. Daniel set down his fork, studying her carefully. You've been quiet, he said finally. Grace swallowed, her heart hammering. I didn't just come for a visit, she said. His eyes widened slightly, curiosity and concern mingling. What do you mean? I applied for a residency program here, she said. I got in. Silence. He blinked. You're moving here? Yes, she said simply. He leaned back slightly, surprised, as if the words were heavier than the space around them. That's incredible. Really incredible. Grace smiled faintly, her chest tightening. It feels right. He studied her face, searching for hesitation, doubt, anything that might tell him she wasn't certain. And, are you moving for the program or for me? His voice was low, careful. Grace's lips curved into a soft smile. For myself. But, you make the thought of the city feel less scary. Daniel's shoulders relaxed slightly, a small, genuine smile spreading across his face. I was afraid you'd say you were moving because of me, he admitted. I'm not, she said firmly, but softly. This is my choice. My life. My step forward. You're just part of it. He nodded, understanding, though his eyes lingered on her with an intensity that made her chest flutter. They finished dinner, walking slowly along the waterfront afterward, lights reflecting on the dark water like tiny stars fallen to earth. Daniel stopped by the railing, leaning slightly as he looked out at the harbor. Grace. I've been careful, he said, turning to her. Maybe too careful. So have I, she said quietly, almost whispering. I care about you, he said, his voice low but steady. Grace felt her heart catch. She looked up at him, meeting his gaze. I care about you too, she admitted. They didn't rush. They didn't need to. Just standing there, close enough that every subtle movement mattered, was enough. The city around them faded into the background. The lights, the water, even the faint hum of distant traffic, they all disappeared except for the quiet, steady rhythm of possibility between them. But Grace knew she hadn't told him everything. She hadn't told him about Portland, about Ethan, about the house she'd given away. She hadn't told him that leaving behind her old life wasn't easy, that part of her heart still lingered there, tethered to memories she wasn't ready to let go of completely. And tomorrow, she planned to tell him. That night, after walking through a few quiet streets, Grace checked into a small hotel near the waterfront. She unpacked lightly, though her mind kept replaying the evening over and over. Daniel had been warm, present, alive in a way that reminded her why she'd taken this leap. But she also felt a twinge of fear, the kind that comes when you care about someone enough to let yourself be vulnerable. She stared out the window at the city lights, rain starting again, soft and steady. Daniel's words echoed in her mind, "I care about you." She thought about the house, about Ethan's shock, about the life she'd left behind. And yet, for the first time in years, she didn't feel regret. She felt ready. The next morning, she texted Daniel a short message. "Grace, coffee later?" Within minutes, her phone buzzed. "Daniel, definitely. Can't wait." The hours until their meeting felt long and full of anticipation. When they finally met at a small cafe overlooking the harbor, the sunlight glinting off the water, Grace felt the same flutter she had felt the night before. Daniel smiled when he saw her, and she realized something: she didn't need words to understand him. His presence alone was comforting, grounding, exciting. They talked over coffee, laughter spilling easily, casual and light, but underneath, the undercurrent of something deeper hummed steadily. They shared small personal stories, favorite books, memories from childhood, and even little regrets. The conversation was easy, but it carried weight, a kind of weight that made her heart ache with longing and hope all at once. At one point, Daniel reached out to brush a strand of hair behind her ear. Grace didn't pull back. Instead, she leaned just slightly closer. The touch was gentle, almost tender, and it sent a shiver down her spine. "Seattle's lucky to have you," Daniel said quietly, almost as if he were speaking to the city itself. Grace smiled, looking at him. "I think I'm lucky to be here." As the sun dipped lower over the harbor, painting the sky in streaks of pink and gold, Grace realized something important: life wasn't about rushing or forcing things. It was about moments like this, about taking steps toward what mattered, about allowing herself to feel alive again after years of holding back. She thought about Ethan, about the house, about Portland, and knew she had made the right choice. Leaving wasn't abandoning, it was stepping into something bigger, something real, something that allowed her to grow. That evening, walking back toward the hotel along the quiet streets, Daniel fell into step beside her. They didn't speak for a while, just walking in comfortable silence. Every glance, every small touch of shoulder or hand, carried meaning. At the hotel door, Daniel turned to her. "Grace, you're here. Really here. And I'm glad." "I'm glad too," she said, feeling warmth spread through her chest. They lingered for a moment, neither wanting to leave, neither needing to speak. The city around them faded into a blur of lights and distant sounds. Grace knew the next steps were uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid. Because she had chosen herself. And in doing so, she had found someone who could walk alongside her, not as a replacement for what she had lost, but as a companion for what she was just beginning to build. Grace went to bed that night with a quiet thrill. Her heart felt full, her mind awake, and her spirit lighter than it had been in years. She didn't know exactly what the future held. She didn't know how Daniel felt deep down or what challenges they might face. But she knew this: standing on the edge of a new life, with possibility stretching before her like the Seattle skyline at sunset, felt like exactly where she was meant to be. And tomorrow, she would tell him everything. Grace woke early the next morning. The city was quiet, soft sunlight spilling over the harbor, painting the buildings in gold. She had spent the night replaying every moment with Daniel, every glance, every laugh, every small brush of hands. Her chest still fluttered when she thought about it. Today, though, there was another conversation she couldn't avoid. Ethan. The thought of telling him everything, about Daniel, about the program, about leaving Portland for good, made her stomach tighten. But she knew it was time. No more hiding, no more half-truths. She called Ethan. His familiar voice came through the phone, a mix of surprise and concern. "You're calling early," he said. "I need to talk," Grace said gently. "It can't wait." He didn't ask questions, just nodded, even though she couldn't see him. "Okay. I'll come over." Within an hour, Ethan was sitting on the porch of Grace's townhouse, hands tucked into his jacket pockets. His expression was unreadable, part worry, part curiosity. Grace offered him a cup of coffee, and he took it silently. "You went to Seattle," he said finally, voice steady but cautious. "Yes," she admitted. "See him?" His eyes narrowed slightly, searching hers. "Yes," she said softly, her heart racing. Ethan leaned back, processing the words. He had always known his aunt as someone cautious, someone careful with every decision. Seeing her now, stepping into a new city, meeting a man she barely knew, it was almost unbelievable. "And, it felt right?" he asked. Grace nodded, her fingers tightening around her mug. "More than anything I've felt in years." He studied her face, his brows knitting together. "You really mean it? You're leaving Portland? Giving me the house? And him? Daniel? All of it?" She smiled, faintly, almost wistfully. "Yes. All of it. And I'm ready." Ethan didn't respond immediately. He just sipped his coffee and looked out at the street. The quiet seemed heavy for a moment, almost tense. Then he exhaled, long and slow. "You're really shocking me, Aunt Grace." "I won't lie." "I know," she said softly. "And I don't expect you to fully understand. I just need you to trust me." He looked back at her, his expression softening. "I think I do. I really do." Grace felt a wave of relief. "That means everything to me," she said. They sat in silence for a while, sipping coffee, letting the morning air fill the space between them. The porch seemed smaller somehow, warmer, the quiet less intimidating. For the first time, Ethan saw the real reason she was leaving, not running away from grief, but stepping forward into life, into possibility, into hope. "You're giving me the house," he said after a while, voice quieter this time. "And I get it. You want me to have a start, to make it mine." "Yes," Grace said. "It gave me safety when I needed it. Now I want it to give you a start too." He nodded, understanding more than she expected. "I won't lie. I was shocked. But I think I get it now. You're finally walking forward." Grace reached out, nudging his shoulder gently. "Exactly. You don't have to fully get it. Just trust that it's the right choice for me." Ethan smiled faintly, the tension in his face easing. "I do. I trust you." A month later, Grace packed her last box. The townhouse was almost empty, the walls echoing with memories of years past. She had left reminders for Ethan, a few framed photos, her favorite kitchen tools, even a small note in the attic telling him about her favorite spots in the city he could keep exploring. Ethan hugged her longer than usual when he saw her last morning. His arms were warm, strong, comforting. "Better visit," he said, trying to mask the slight tremor in his voice. "I will," Grace promised. "Every chance I get." "And call," he added. "Every week." "I will," she said again, smiling, though her chest tightened. She stepped into her car, turning the key. The engine rumbled, the world waiting beyond the driveway. She didn't feel sad. She didn't feel regret. She felt ready. Alive. The road stretched ahead, gray asphalt glistening in the morning light. As she drove north, leaving Portland behind, memories flickered in her mind, not painful, not heavy, just familiar. She thought about Ethan, about the house, about the life she was leaving, and felt a strange peace. Seattle welcomed her with open arms, foggy mornings, the smell of coffee shops, the distant hum of ferries across the water. And there was Daniel, waiting at the apartment when she arrived. The moment he saw her, his face lit up. His smile was the same one that had made her heart leap on the train platform months ago, gentle and sincere. "Grace," he said, his voice low, a mix of relief and joy. "I'm here," she said softly, a laugh catching in her throat. They didn't rush. No words were needed at first. They just stood, letting the space between them hold meaning. Every glance, every subtle touch, every small smile carried the weight of months of anticipation, uncertainty, and hope. "I've missed you," Daniel said finally, breaking the quiet. "I've missed you too," she admitted, feeling warmth spread through her chest. Over the next few days, Grace settled into the rhythm of her new life. The residency program was intense, challenging, but she felt alive in a way she hadn't in years. Daniel was there, patient, kind, present. They explored the city together, walking along the waterfront, discovering little cafes and bookstores, sharing quiet evenings on his balcony overlooking the harbor. One evening, after a long day of work, Daniel took her hand as they walked along the pier. "Grace, you've made a lot of brave choices lately," he said softly. She looked at him, smiling faintly. "I've had to. Life doesn't wait for anyone." "And, you're happy?" he asked, searching her eyes. "Yes," she said simply. "For the first time in years, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." He squeezed her hand. "I'm glad. You deserve this." Grace felt a lump in her throat, not from sadness, but from the weight of everything she had endured and the joy of everything that was now possible. She thought about Portland, about Ethan, about the house, and felt gratitude, for her past, for the people she loved, and for this moment. Sometimes, she realized, the bravest thing isn't holding on. Sometimes, it's letting go. Letting go of what's safe, what's familiar, what's expected, to make room for something new, something real, something worth the risk. Standing on the pier, the water reflecting city lights, Grace knew she had made the right choice. She had stepped into a new life, one that was hers to shape. One that included the man she cared about, the city that challenged her, and the future she had finally chosen for herself. And somewhere, deep down, she knew Ethan would understand too. Not just because she had explained it, but because he had seen her courage, her resolve, and her willingness to embrace life fully. Grace took a deep breath, letting the salty air fill her lungs. For the first time in a long time, the road ahead didn't feel uncertain. It felt wide open, full of possibility, full of hope, and full of love she hadn't allowed herself to imagine before. And Daniel's hand in hers was a quiet promise, not a guarantee, not a rush, just a steady, present reminder that sometimes, the right person shows up at exactly the right time. Grace smiled, letting the moment wash over her. The city, the harbor, the life ahead, it was hers. Finally, she was walking forward.